Yeah, and now is the time. If you want to buy real estate in Belize, now is the time to do it because the value of it's only going to go up. You can have like a $200,000 home here, and your taxes on that house might be $100 a year. Over the course of the project, we think about 18% a year. I have managed, like I said, the high volume restaurants. My last restaurant fed 15,000 people a week.
Dear viewers, welcome to Stobox Interviews, a video series where we speak with industry leaders and rock stars who create the most disruptive projects in the asset tokenization space. Today with me is Owen, our client who is doing an extremely interesting and attractive tokenization project in Belize, focusing on financing the real estate construction. Owen, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
It's good to be here, Borys.
Let's get right into the discussion. Owen, please tell us about your project. What do you want to finance with tokenization?
Okay, the plan here is to purchase 4 plots of land for a total of a little over 200 acres, in which we plan to build about 700 homes and 2 apartment buildings. About a dozen of these houses, they're going to be tiny houses. That's 800 to 1,000 square feet. The buyer, we're going to offer 2 possibilities. You can be either off-grid or on-grid. Depending on whether you want the convenience of electricity or you want the environmental and cost savings of solar energy. Some of these homes will be Caribbean seaside, but most of them will be in a like a subdivision or in subdivisions. It'll be a total of 3 subdivisions, and then 1 will be a standalone apartment building.
In what you described, I like the fact that we are speaking about significant number of separate houses, so it seems there is a benefit of diversification there for your investors. And what I'm also hearing is that you provide optionality to your potential customers. Either they want a simpler option or maybe more environmentally friendly one, and thus you probably have higher reach and higher occupancy rate and higher sales rate because of that.
Yes.
And what amount are you raising?
A little almost 16 million euros.
That sounds to me like a sweet spot. From what I observe, this is the amount that is large enough to execute something significant and to deliver great returns on investment, but also realistic enough to actually raise the capital in the reasonable timeline. So that sounds good. And could you please tell our viewers about your business background? What was your previous journey that led you to this business?
Well, I have spent the last 40 years in logistics, transportation logistics, and people management, and real estate management. Those are my 3 areas of expertise over the last 40 years. I have been a property manager. I have managed, like I said, the high volume restaurants. My last restaurant fed 15,000 people a week. And before that, I was in transportation logistics. So managing people is something I've done for a long time. About a decade ago, I got into flipping my own real estate. I buy the real estate with my money, improve it, and sell it for a profit. And now I've decided that I want to do something bigger. I want to buy bigger land, make bigger improvements, sell it for bigger profits.
That makes total sense to me, and it seems like such a natural progression in your career. You didn't simply just come off fresh out of grad school and said, yeah, give me 15 million, I'm going to deliver return. Instead, you built such an expertise with some impressive numbers you mentioned previously. And now this seems like a natural, for you, maybe even a small step actually, compared to what it would have been for some other people. So it actually makes me more confident in the success of this deal, to see that your background matches so well what you're going to execute. It's like deals that you've already done, just on a larger scale. As far as I understand, this project would be executed in Belize. And in some of our previous discussions, you mentioned there are many reasons to believe it's going to be in the next decade a very attractive investment destination with rising land prices. So it would be good to hear you speak a bit about that.
Okay, great. Yes, Belize is a developing, I guess what you would call an emerging economy. Taxes are really low here. The highest tax rate you can possibly suffer here is about 15%, whereas in the United States, a typical American pays about 28 to 32% of their income back to the government in taxes. The second thing that was, and what really brought me to Belize, in addition to the low taxes, is that you don't have all the government intrusion in your life here. There's, the government is not involved in every little aspect of your day-to-day life. So when you take the freedom and the low taxes and the low cost of living here, Belize is just a logical choice for me.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you would have significantly lower cost of doing business because of lower taxes, because of lower, and not even business taxes, but also lower personal taxes mean that you can have the smaller payrolls and therefore still lower expenses, and also probably less different kinds of government checks, bureaucracy, etc. And this would eventually lead to higher returns to investors.
This is true, and regard to taxes, I want to point out you can have like a $200,000 home here, and your taxes on that house might be $100 a year.
That's pretty impressive, in a good way.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a good place, and I assume that it's not only you, that overall a lot of capital is flowing into Belize.
It is. The Taiwan government, officially the Republic of China, is investing heavily here. They just built about a 35-mile long, $52 million highway that had to traverse 2 rivers. That's a big deal in a place like Belize, because they only had 4 other highways here to start with. Most of the roads in this country are dirt roads. Again, low taxes, there's got to be a trade-off, right? And so a solid paved 30-mile highway that crosses 2 rivers that are currently serviced by ferries. That new road is going to be from Sartanea, Belize to Corazal, Belize, what that road will do is it will connect Sartanea to Corazal, and more importantly, it will connect Sartanea to the only north-south highway in the country, the Northern Highway it's called. It runs from basically Chetumal, Mexico to Belize City. The bridges, like I said, they're having to build 2 bridges. They've already completed one of them, almost completed it. The other one should be finished by the end of 2025, at which point, instead of it taking an hour and a half to travel 30 miles from Corazal to Sartanea, it'll only take about 25 minutes.
And I assume such an influx of investment would have a very positive impact on the value of land, thus benefiting investors not only from direct return, direct cash flow, but increase in the token price because of the land itself and everything that is built on top of it also becoming more expensive.
Yes, land prices here are increasing, especially on the eastern part of the country. They are beginning to come in line with U.S. prices. And now is the time. If you want to buy real estate in Belize, now is the time to do it, because the value of it's only going to go up, especially in the eastern part of the state. There's a couple of reasons like that. Like I said, Taiwan is investing here. The story is they plan to build a new port in Sartanea. Right now, Sartanea is nothing but a little fishing village. It's got a small port that is used to ship produce from Little Belize. It's a little 800,000 acre farming community in northeastern Belize. They use a minor port in Sartanea right now to ship produce from, like I said, Sartanea to San Pedro, which is an island, tourist island. If you've ever watched Love Boat, you've seen pictures of San Pedro. Well, actually, Belize City. So anyways, that's one of the reasons that Taiwan is investing in this money in this highway, is that the proposed plan is for Taiwan to build a new port in Sartanea, and use the one that is currently in Belize City and very inadequate, just for cruise ships.
And I believe that's one of the reasons why your strategy involves using the first funds you raise in order to buy land, and only then using them to do construction. Because Even if you
Correct.
raise only a small fraction of your fundraising amount, like even if you raise only 1 million, by investing in land, you would ensure that you would deliver good returns to your investors in any case.
Correct.
Yeah, this is super smart. And as we have been speaking about returns on the topic, I've been wondering, what do you expect to be the approximate annual return for investors?
Over the course of the project, we think about 18% a year is what we're projecting. The reality is there's going to be no income the first 2 or 3 years. One of the things I want to point out, you and I have talked about, the risk here. The biggest risk here is that everything is really, really slow. I can't compare it to anything but the United States, but in the U.S., you buy a piece of real estate, you make an offer, it's accepted, you pay the money, you close today. Tomorrow, you have the deed in your hand or the trust deed if you financed it. In Belize, that process takes about a year.
From this perspective, Belize is probably more similar to Europe than the US in terms of the speed of transactions.
Yeah, it'll take about a year. What'll happen and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the funds that I raise to first survey each lot. You do that because you want to be sure that you are actually buying the lot piece of land that you think you are. I have had that happen where I've made an offer on a piece of land and the surveyor surveyed it and it wasn't even a piece of land I wanted to buy. So we'll survey it first. And then if the surveys come out okay on each land, if the survey comes out okay, then we'll do a title search. And then once those two things come out okay, we'll go ahead and close on the, assuming an offer has been accepted, we'll go ahead and close on it. After a title search and a survey is done. And like I said, I'll do the survey first to be sure that, I'm actually, that what's on the paper that says I'm buying is what I'm really buying.
It's good to see you applying that kind of care and stewardship to these transactions and ensuring that you mitigate all of the risks and properly use investors' money. It definitely makes me trust you more, given the details you're sharing, including the honest risks that are involved in this project as in any other. So I would say, given the very impressive return you mentioned of 18%, even if it is delayed by, let's say, a year compared to what you mentioned, overall return is still going to be most likely worth the investment.
Oh, yes, sir, definitely.
And in terms of the duration, do you expect these properties to operate and pay out the returns indefinitely, or would you buy out tokens at some point? What is your long-term play?
What will happen is once the apartment buildings are purchased, built, they will be property of the fund. The houses, once they will be, the last one is built, the development company will be finished. So the development company, BNO Real Estate Holdings, will simply disappear. There will be a property management company in place that is managing the 2 apartment buildings. But once the last house is sold and BNO Real Estate Holdings disappears, the owners of the tokens of the fund will be given the opportunity through the smart contract to take total control of the project, the total ownership, total control of running the 2 apartment buildings that are left over, or we can sell it. It'll be up to the token holders. Do they want to continue to hold the apartment buildings and collect the rents? And I do want to point out, this is probably a good time to point out, those apartment buildings will take 5 years to build, 4 to 5 years to build after I finally get a deed on the real estate. So you are talking about maybe 5 to 6 years before those apartments ever pay a dime. Once we get them finished built and get them all the apartments occupied, by that point we'll also have built all the houses, should have built all or most of the houses, and sold them. And like I said, once that's all done, the houses are all sold. BNO Real Estate Holdings will disappear, and the holders of the tokens will be given the opportunity to decide, do they just want to hold their interest, keep the apartment buildings, or do they want to sell them?
It's good to hear that you're offering that degree of agency to your investors. This is something we need to have more in the tokenization space and generally in the crypto space. Even though there is a lot of talk about community, there aren't that many projects that actually offer that degree of control to their holders. So I believe you're setting the right example there by offering your investors the right to choose in which way they would like for the project to continue being run. Moving on to the next item. I've been wondering why you decided to use the blockchain for financing this deal. Why didn't you go to a bank or to standard private investors? Why tokenization?
Okay, well, I'll answer your bank question first. Belize is a cash market. There is almost no such thing as a home mortgage in this country. Financing land purchases or anything like that. It's just not done here. The reason I chose blockchain is because the liquidity. It's easy enough to buy, and if for some reason it's not working for you, or you just want to sell it, you can. Whereas if you do a traditional syndication like I have done in the past, or like I've been involved in the past, it's time consuming. You're locked in. That's the biggest thing. I've been in syndications that were great, and then I've been in syndications that after about a year I wanted out. And the only way you can get out is to find somebody that wants to buy your ownership in the company, and that can be hard. It can be easy. Maybe there's somebody else in the company that, another investor, a fellow investor that will buy you out, but you're almost always going to take a loss because, I mean, let's be real. When I decided I wanted out, it's because things weren't going like they were supposed to. In tokenization, if you want to sell your tokens, you can just put them on put them up for sale. It's pretty easy. Whereas, like I said, with a traditional syndication, if you want out, it's hard to get out, and it's expensive because you've got to involve lawyers. I know like I said, I've been involved in one syndication where after about a year, I said, thanks, I want out. And it took another 6 months and about 1,000 USD in legal fees just to get out of it. Once I found a buyer that would buy my contract, I had to then hire a lawyer to handle all of it.
Yeah, this is crazy. I believe many of your investors would be people who invest only $1,000, $2,000, or having $1,000 in fees only to liquidate their position would just render all the transaction meaningless. And I assume with this deal, this is especially important given just the duration that you mentioned to get the deed done, to get everything built out. Not everyone is ready to wait that many years, and they don't have to, because they can sell, for example, in 2 years. And the token would already increase the price because you started building, because you purchased the land increased in price. So they would already get some profit, and new buyers would keep getting profit for the rising in price. So this is something that makes this deal even more feasible and attractive.
Exactly.
As we are moving to the end of our interview, I would like to get your opinion on what makes this deal different from many other construction deals out there. Why should investors try to invest in your company instead of other real estate investment trusts, syndications, etc.?
Well, Belize is it's growing. There's about 5,000 people a year moving here from other countries. It has become probably the expat nation of the world. This area where I want to build these houses and apartment buildings, this is a huge expat area. There's a couple of others, but this northeastern corner, it's close to Mexico. And like I said, there's 5,000 people a year relocating to Belize, mostly from North America and Europe. And right now, land prices here are, comparatively speaking to other countries, pretty, developed countries, it's still lower. You can buy land for less here than, say, the United States or Europe or anything like that. I don't think this country is going to be affected by the financial turmoil that is going on in the world today, that I think is going to get worse because people are moving here, they're spending money here, And Belize, it just doesn't have that complicated of a financial environment. So like if things do go south in the U.S. with the economy and maybe Europe as well, I think what you'll have is you'll have people flee those areas to Belize, which will be a positive for Belize because, like I said, the cost of living here is cheaper. The taxes are cheaper. And that's the reason a lot of retirees move here now. They can make their retirement dollar go a whole lot further in Belize than they could the U.S. or Canada.
So you can say that investing in this deal isn't merely about getting good returns. It's also about hedging your bets. That is, if you keep most of your investments focused on US and EU market, it's good to have some investment that will rise in the case if the economy in those markets goes south.
Well, yes, that is what I'm saying, and also at the same time, the economies in these developing economies, emerging economies, it's growing. We are steadily growing here. There's new and new businesses coming to Belize every day. It's not often I never travel to Belize City, which is only a couple hours away, and I don't see a new apartment building, a new store, or something large being built. And it's the same thing, like everywhere I go in San Pedro. Construction, and bear in mind, things like that here take longer than most places. But everywhere I go, what I see is new construction. And they're even improving the highways here. And that's a big deal. And in a place like Belize, when you consider that it only has 5 major highways to start with, everything else is dirt. And well, really, it's only got 4. The Taiwan government's building the 5th one. And we don't have highways here. And like I said, with all the investing that's being done, like I said, we're beginning to see highways. They're changing up the roads, the highways they do have. They're widening them. Belize is spending a lot of money on transportation infrastructure. And I think that's because everything I hear and read, Belize is more or less a pipeline from Mexico to Guatemala and on down towards the southern part of Central America and South America. A lot of commerce passes through Belize. And so they're improving the highway system, and like they are, well, that's it. They're improving the highway system dramatically, and they are, the construction here is just nonstop. Everywhere I go, all I see is new buildings, new apartment buildings, new stores being built, new homes are being built everywhere.
So as I understand, investment in Belize is also a very robust investment because the economy is already growing. But even if the rest of the world would experience a recession, Belize is less likely to do so. So it's a good investment, not only from the perspective of good return, but also from the perspective of downside protection, thus having a much better risk-return ratio.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I just like I said, between low taxes, low government intrusion, and I don't think that the downfall here when the economy, and I'm convinced it will, when the economy does start to suffer, I don't think you're going to see it here. And I think that'll be true not only in Belize, but a lot of these emerging economies. When the rest of the world is suffering, you're going to see a lot of these emerging economies like Belize truly bloom.
Owen, thank you for a very insightful and effective, I would say, interview. What I like about this deal is that it isn't flashy. It isn't trying to be more than it is, but what it is impressive and persuasive enough. And it's a big pleasure for me to support you in making this come true, in taking this next step in your career as an entrepreneur, and offering many investors this attractive opportunity. It's been a great pleasure to work with you so far.
All right. Well, thank you, Borys. I've enjoyed working with you.
And to all viewers, if you enjoyed this interview, please don't forget to like and comment and maybe share with other people who might enjoy it. And subscribe to check out other interviews on this channel to learn from industry leaders and see where you can get a competitive edge via knowledge. Thank you for sticking to the end, and see you in the next episode.